Think of a night where death itself believed it had finally won, where the darkness was so deep that there was no trace of light, where the body of Jesus Christ lay sealed inside a QBR, and perhaps Iblis himself was smiling. Now it's all over. But does the story really end there? Or is this where the greatest twist in history begins? This is the moment when even death didn't understand what was about to happen to it, and from where human history was changed forever. Now let's go back to that journey which is not just the story of a death, but the tale of a victory beyond comprehension. According to the Bible, when Jesus was crucified, people thought this was just an ordinary end. A prophet, a teacher, a guide, who fell victim to the Zalm of the world. The sky turned dark, the earth trembled, and fear filled the hearts of people. At that moment, perhaps everyone believed that everything was over. His words, his teachings, his love, all buried into dust. And then, silence. The silence of the grave. Those 3 heavy, deep days of silence where there was no sound, no movement. If you truly feel that moment, it wasn't just a dead body in a tomb, it was hope itself being buried. The disciples were scattered, people were afraid, and the enemies were convinced they had won. Perhaps even Iblis thought, the path of humanity is now closed forever. But the deepest secret of the story lies right here. Because according to the deeper meaning of the Bible, what looked like defeat was actually a plan, a divine plan. Those 3 days were not just waiting, but a preparation for something far beyond human understanding. It was a time when something was happening in the spiritual realm, something that would impact the entire universe. Then comes the 3rd day, the morning, and this was no ordinary morning. Imagine when the first light touches the earth, when a soft breeze moves, when everything seems completely normal. But in reality, nothing is normal. The women who come to the grave are only there to see a body, but what they find is beyond imagination. The stone has been moved. The tomb is empty. From here, the story doesn't just change. It explodes, like a blast that shakes every page of history. Death, the greatest fear of humanity, was confined within its limits that day. Because if a grave couldn't hold someone, then what can? This wasn't just a man coming back to life. It was a challenge to the very concept of death. This was the moment when Iblis may have realized that what he thought was his greatest victory was actually his greatest defeat. And this is why this moment is so powerful. Because it's not just the story of Jesus, it becomes the story of every human being. Because if death is not final, then despair is not final either. If a grave can be empty, then a heart can come alive again. This resurrection is not just a miracle, it's a message that no matter how deep the darkness is, a single moment of light can tear through it. And this is the twist that changed history. Empires rose and fell, philosophies changed, but this one truth, that a grave was found empty, changed the way the world thinks. People changed how they saw death, how they understood life, and most importantly, how they felt hope. This story challenges us. What do we believe? Do we only see the apparent defeat? Or do we try to understand the hidden victory behind it? Because on that morning, a grave was emptied. But in reality, the future of humanity was filled. Now the story becomes even deeper. Because when we talk about the resurrection, the question is not just how Jesus Christ rose from the grave. The real question is, what happened during those 3 days? That silence which was on earth, was it really just silence? Or was a battle taking place in another realm? A battle that is only mentioned in deeper spiritual understanding? According to the Bible, especially in the book of Revelation and other places, there are indications that death and the realm of spirits are not just concepts, but a reality, a system, a prison where souls are held. Some people think of it as just a place, but deeper study suggests that it is also an authority, a power that seeks to keep humanity bound. Think about it. If death were just a natural process, then what would it mean for it to be thrown into the lake of fire? Revelation says that in the end, death and Hades, the realm of spirits, will themselves be judged and thrown into the lake of fire. This means they are not ultimate, but rather a temporary system. And if it is a system, then it must also have a ruler, a structure. According to some spiritual interpretations, these fallen angels, mentioned in various places, corrupted the system of humanity and turned death into a prison. Here's something profound to understand. Death is not just the end of the body, but the soul entering a system from which return seems impossible. This is the place where hope breaks, where a person loses their identity. Now think, when Jesus surrendered his spirit, did he simply become a dead body? Or did he enter that same system where every human goes? In some parts of the Bible, there are indications that he descended to that place where imprisoned souls were held. This was not an ordinary journey. It was an invasion where for the first time, someone did not just knock on the doors of death from the outside, but broke them from within. And here the story reaches its peak. Imagine that moment when the ruler of darkness believes everything is under his control, where every soul that enters never returns. But then a light enters, a light unlike anything ever seen before. This light does not just shine, it comes with authority. It declares, this system is about to end. And then those words, among the most powerful in history, when after the resurrection Jesus Christ says, I hold the keys of death and of the realm of spirits. This is not just symbolic, it is a declaration. Keys represent authority, control, access, meaning that what was once under someone else's control has now come under his authority. Think of it like this, a prison where people have been locked away for centuries. Whoever enters never returns, the doors are shut, the chains are strong, and the guard never sleeps. But one day someone comes who does not fear the guard, who does not stop at the sight of chains, who walks straight in and then opens the doors. Some biblical indications also suggest that he set the captive souls free and led them upward. These were the ones who had been waiting, with hope, with faith. This moment was not just a victory, it was a liberation. And here something very deep becomes clear, that the resurrection was not just Jesus coming back to life. It was the opening of a new path. Before this, death was a dead end. But now it has become a doorway, a transition, a passage. And what does all of this mean for us? It means that the thing we fear the most, death, is no longer the final authority. The system that held humanity captive has been broken. And if the keys are in his hands, then no soul can remain imprisoned forever. This story gives us a new perspective, that the line between life and death is not as strong as we think. And the light that came out of that tomb was not just for one day. It is still at work today, breaking through darkness, shattering captivity, and calling humanity toward its true freedom. And perhaps the most powerful thing is this. This story is not just meant to be told. It is meant to be lived. Because if the keys are in his hands, then the door can open at any moment. And now the story no longer remains just history. It becomes the present. Because the question is not what Jesus Christ did back then. The real question is, what does his victory mean today? Was it just an event that passed? Or is it a living reality that is still shaking the spiritual realm? Think, if someone has conquered death, if someone has taken the keys of the realm of spirits into his own hands, then what remains after that? What does Satan have left? What was his greatest weapon? Fear. And what was the center of that fear? Death. When a person believes that everything will end, they are controlled through that fear. But when the fear of death is broken, control is broken too. According to the Bible, the resurrection of Jesus did not just empty a grave, it exposed a system. Satan's power is not real authority, it is deception. He deceives, he makes people believe that he is powerful. But when truth is revealed, his power disappears. This is very important to understand, that Jesus did not just defeat Satan, but defeated him publicly, meaning he exposed his reality before all, like a false king who rules only because of people's fear. And then one day someone comes and removes his mask. From that day on, that king may technically still exist, but his authority is gone. And this is why the name Jesus is considered so powerful. It is not just a name, it is a symbol of authority. When someone says in the name of Jesus, they are actually declaring the victory that has already been won. This is not a new battle being fought. It is the announcement of a battle already won. Think of a battlefield where the war is already over, but some enemies are still wandering around, scaring people, confusing them. But as soon as someone comes carrying the command of the true king, everything becomes clear. This is the same concept. Even today, when people struggle spiritually, fear, darkness, whispers, or some force pulling them down, the Bible says these are the effects of that same old system. But the difference now is that system has already been legally broken. That is why it is said that no power, no darkness, no evil influence can stand against the name of Jesus. Why? Because that name reminds of the victory that has already taken place. What does Satan fear the most? Truth. And the name of Jesus is the declaration of that truth. And here is another deep point. This power is not just a theory, it is an experience. In history and even today, people testify that when they called upon that name, their lives changed. Darkness lifted, fear decreased, and a strange peace was felt. But this is not a magic formula. It is important to understand that this authority comes from relationship. When a person just repeats the name without understanding, they miss its depth. But when someone uses that name with understanding and belief in that victory, then those are no longer just words. They become a spiritual reality. And here the story becomes even more personal. Because if Jesus defeated death, if he took the keys of the realm of spirits, if he exposed the authority of Satan, then it means humanity is no longer helpless. Now humans have a choice. Now humans have access. It is like a prison that has already been opened, but some people are still sitting inside because they don't even know that the door is open. The victory of Jesus was not just about opening the door, but also about telling people, you can be free. And perhaps this is the most powerful point, that even today Satan tries to make people believe the same old lie, that you are bound, you are weak, you are alone. But the resurrection of Jesus says every time, no, you have a way, you have authority, you have that name before which darkness cannot stand. So this story is not just a belief, it is an invitation for a person to experience that victory in their own life, not just to hear it, but to see it, understand it, and live it. And when someone truly understands this reality, the world is no longer the same as before. Fear is not as deep. Darkness does not feel as powerful. And life is no longer just a struggle, but becomes a journey, where at every step, that victory is reflected which began from an empty grave, and which can still reach every heart today. And now, as we stand at the final turn of this entire story, a strange kind of silence is felt again. But this is not the silence that was inside the grave. This is the silence that comes after understanding the truth. A deep, peaceful silence, where the heart slowly begins to accept what the mind perhaps could not grasp before. The story of Jesus Christ, from his birth to his crucifixion, and then to his resurrection. All of this together does not form just a religious narrative. It becomes a mirror in which a person can see their own story. Because every human being passes through some kind of darkness in life. Everyone at some point finds themselves in a grave-like situation where everything feels closed off, where hope is buried, where it seems like nothing can change anymore. But then, that morning comes. This story does not tell us that darkness will never come. It does not say that struggle will end completely. Instead, it gives a new perspective, that darkness is not final. The grave is not final. Death is not final. In the Bible, this sequence from death to life, from defeat to victory, from closed doors to open paths, is a pattern. And this pattern does not remain limited to Jesus alone. It opens up for every person who allows this truth into their life. And when we look at this story in its entirety, we begin to understand that this was not just a miracle. It was an invitation, a call for a person to change their thinking, to change their perspective, and most importantly, to rediscover their identity. Think about it. If the keys of death are in his hands, then the keys to the closed doors of your life may also be in his hands. If he could descend into a place as deep as the realm of spirits and free souls from there, then how could it be difficult for him to bring light into the darkness of your heart? This story reminds us that a person is not alone. No matter how deep the night is, no matter how much darkness surrounds them, there is a light that can reach them. And this light does not just come from the outside. It goes within, transforms, and makes a person new. And perhaps the most beautiful thing is this, that this story never becomes old. In every era, in every city, in every heart, it is written again. When someone rises after being broken, when someone holds on to hope despite fear, when someone believes in light even in darkness, they become a part of this very story. It is a living story. And in the end, when all words fall short, when every logic reaches its limit, only one thing remains, a decision, a quiet yet deep decision, whether we simply hear this story and walk away or make it a part of our own lives. Because once a grave was emptied, and from that day on, the world was never the same. And perhaps your life shouldn't remain the same either.